You've decided to put your house on the market. You want to get top dollar. Not only that, it would be amazing if you could get a cash offer. So what does a cash offer mean for you as a home seller? Selling your house for cash means that a buyer is basically buying your house outright without any financing, and to close, they're basically transferring the funds electronically. There are two types of buyers. You have the individual buyer and a real estate investor, who can also be called an iBuyer. And really, there used to be a group of people that you might call mom and pop investment buyers, and these would be people in your locality, your city, county, whatever, who are buying homes to build up a portfolio of homes that they own in the area. And ever since 2008 happened, there's a whole new branch of these investment buyers, and they're called iBuyers. These iBuyers are essentially really big tech companies who are using technology to buy as many homes across the country as they possibly can, in an attempt to develop something of a monopoly share of these homes, because with that monopoly share of homes come higher rents. You have your individual buyers and you have your real estate investors. An individual buyer might be an investor, but probably they're going to be someone who's buying the home to move into it for themselves. They want to live there. And the reason why you might want to sell your home for cash is that the process is a lot shorter. Technically, it can be done in 3 days. However, most escrow officers are really going to ask you for 2 weeks because they want to clear any of the liens, they want to provide insurance, they want to get the paperwork all ready to go, and 2 weeks is a much more tenable time frame for them. So if you love your escrow officer, you're going to give them 2 weeks. Another reason that you might want to sell your home for cash is that you're not relying on a lender for financing, which means there is one less spot where a transaction can fall apart and the sale of your home doesn't work out and you need to find a new buyer, which is actually a pretty good reason. There are a couple things to consider with iBuyers. If you use an iBuyer, like a big giant company who buys your home, you often sight unseen for cash. And the reason you might use an iBuyer is because they're not going to ask you for any repairs. You're not going to have to do any staging. And sometimes there's no commission with an iBuyer. There might be lower closing costs because the iBuyer is going to cover those for you. Believe it or not, there are some reasons why you might not want to sell your house for cash. Not a ton of them, obviously, but they do exist. The first one is going to be that you're attracting mostly iBuyers, because an iBuyer is going to be a company and it's pretty much a sure deal. You're going to be able to get your home sold, no problems. Generally, you're leaving cash on the table. If you're going to have a cash investor who is typically an individual investor, like the mom and pop investor that I was speaking of, they're going to be trying to get your home for 50 to 70% of the market value. iBuyers tend to be a little bit more. They might give you more like 90% of market value, but you are still leaving 10% cash on the table. The first thing that you want to do in order to attract a cash buyer is research the market. You want to know everything about the market so that you know how to attract a buyer in the first place. The best place, the very, very best place for data, in my opinion, they have an entire office dedicated to finding this data, is the National Association of Realtors webpage. Usually local data is better than national data, so that's the National Association of Realtors, but just about every state has a real estate association, and very often they have their own local data. So knowing about the market means that you're going to have to figure out a seller's versus a buyer's market. If we're talking about a seller's market, usually what we're saying is that there is a 1 to 3 month supply of homes on the market. A 1 to 3 month supply means that in 1 to 3 months, all of the homes available will have been purchased by the current number of buyers. If there is a 4 to 6 month supply of homes on the market, that's usually what people call a balanced market, and it'll take about 4 to 6 months to sell all of the homes on the market. 6+ months of available homes on the market is a buyer's market, obviously. And part of knowing the difference between that buyer's and seller's market is going to be how you price your home. It's also going to tell you the direction of the market. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Another aspect of the market that you should understand is the location you're in and what condition homes are selling for in that location. What price point brings what amenities, benefits, features, and condition of the home. If you're in the very nicest neighborhood, likely that condition is gonna have to be really good because the location is really good and the prices are really high. Obviously, if it's not the very best location and the condition is not the highest, then your price is probably gonna be a little bit lower. And it's really important to be very honest with yourself about that, because if you price your home too high, the unfortunate result more frequently than not is that you end up staying on the market for a long time and you get less than the home could have gotten had you just priced it right to start with. So understanding what the local market looks like means is that you're going to look at the supply and demand. Is it that buyers versus sellers market in your location? Do you have an army of buyers trying to get into homes? If you're talking about Salt Lake City, you absolutely have an army of buyers trying to get into homes and just not very many homes. We have just gotten back to the spending on residential home starts that we had in 2005 in 2020. It took from 2005 to 2020 to recover from the 2008 recession in terms of housing starts. Another thing that you want to keep in mind about the data for the market is that you want to look at median home prices. Median home price means that half of those homes are priced above your home and half of them are priced below the home, and that is the median home. That is a number that's going to change seasonally, and you want to track that by the seasonal adjustment. So you want to look May to May, what those two numbers were in May, to see what the change has been, what direction the market is ending up in. There are also price bands in the market. You have your entry level market where first time buyers are operating. You have the middle market, and then you have the high market. And these are not technical terms, but it's just kind of an easy way to describe it. And the high market is going to be split into two bands itself, because you have, I'd say anywhere from $850 to $1.5 million is going to be your entry level high market, whereas the market of $2 million and above they're different. The $2 million and above market and the $1.5 million market, they're different kinds of homes with different types of expectations and buyers. But remember that there are price bands and they affect the entire market. If you have sold in your area a bunch of homes at $2 million, that's going to bring the median up quite a bit. But if you've had a lot of homes sell much, much lower, that's going to bring the price down quite a bit. So that's something to keep in mind too. Another aspect of the market to keep in mind is new construction. The new construction is another way to expand the supply. It costs a little bit more to get into a new home because it complies with current codes and it's more energy efficient and you have a little bit less upkeep. Permits are permission to start homes, and starts mean that ground has been broken. And that's another really great way to keep track of what's going on in the market. Are there more permits and starts right now, or fewer permits and starts, or lots of permits and very few starts? And this can give you important information that'll be very helpful. You probably know all about mortgage rates because of the way interest rates have basically doubled in the last year. When the rates are really low, there is high demand for homes. And when the rates are high, there's a little bit less demand. And in Salt Lake City, we have an army of buyers. So there have been fewer people trying to get into homes over the last year since interest rates have doubled. But there are still plenty of people trying to get into homes, and multiple offers do still happen. They're not nearly as common as they were a year ago, but they do still happen sometimes. Another thing you can keep in mind in terms of understanding the market is the economy. If there's a strong market, there's going to be high demand. And if there's a very weak market, there's going to be low demand. If people are worried about losing their job, or their pay is stagnating, or they're not having families, that means there's much less demand for homes. So the second thing about understanding the market is that you want to determine the value of your home. One of the most important things that you can do to get a cash offer is to really understand the value of your home very correctly. And an advisor can definitely help you with this. If you talk to someone with real estate experience, they are going to know all of the different things about the market, what direction it's headed in. Is it an increasing market? And if it's an increasing market, how much above the current asking price do I need to offer to get into the home? This is the kind of information that a professional would have. If you're just walking into the market off the street, you probably don't know that sort of thing nearly as intuitively. So an advisor really can help with that sort of thing. And another thing to keep in mind is that for sale by owners sell for about 26% less on average than a home that's listed with a real estate advisor. And so if you're worried about paying 6%, then you're potentially missing out on 20% there. The next step in attracting a cash offer is that you need to prepare your home for sale. I'll tell you what you should do, but I will also tell you that you should watch my video on how to sell my home, because I go into great depth about how to sell your home and all of the steps necessary for getting top dollar, that sort of thing. So the first thing you want to do is make the necessary repairs. The second thing you want to do is stage the home. And the third thing you want to do is find a cash buyer. And you can do it without an agent, but it's likely going to be an iBuyer at 90% of the value of your home. So then the question becomes, how do you get the advertising into the world? Real estate advisors have a marketing strategy that includes a really broad and deep digital and physical saturation of markets, including personal networks where they know of people who have been looking for homes and they can tap their shoulder and ask them if they want this home. Other than that, if you're going to sell the home on your own, which some people opt to do, you want to really get the word out with signage, or you can use classifieds. In Salt Lake City particularly, we have KSL.com, and that's a place where a lot of people list their home for sale. The alternative is going to be a digital market. And if you use a digital market, there's like a for sale by owner.com or something to that effect, they're going to charge you about $100 to $400 depending on what option you use, plus the 3% commission for the buyer's agent. And you can do it that way. And really, it's just totally up to you to make sure that the advertising is getting out to all of the right places to find the right buyer. Working with the real estate agent is something that you should find through a friend. In my opinion, I find that working with referrals is a great way to have a sort of an inherent trust in the person you're working with. If your friend likes this person and you like your friend, by transitive property, you probably like this person too. If you're not going to use a real estate agent, then you need to be negotiating with your potential buyers. And negotiating with a buyer is, for some people, uncomfortable because you absolutely have to tell them no when they want something and ask for something when they don't want you to have it. So it's up to you to know where that line is that an agent might know of that's going to keep the buyer but get the most money at the same time. So there are a couple of different things that you can do to attract a cash buyer, and some of these things that you might want to keep in mind would be researching the market and understanding the local market really well, because that is going to help you determine the value of your home. Then you want to prepare your home for sale by staging it or decluttering it, whatever it is you decide to do. And then you want to advertise your home such that you find that cash buyer. Often people use a real estate agent because they have a built-in network and networking and advertising strategy to get your home broad exposure in front of as many people as possible. Or you need to figure out how to negotiate with a potential buyer. The benefits of selling for cash on your own is that the process can be so much shorter. Technically, it can be done in 3 days. However, most escrow officers really are going to ask you to do at least 2 weeks so that they can clear any of the liens on the home, provide the insurance, and get the paperwork ready so that there aren't any I's not dotted or T's not crossed. With that much shorter process, you're not including a lender in that who's providing the financing. So that's one less place where the transaction can fall apart. And that's a really good reason to be very happy with a cash offer. I'm Ryan Shupit with Active Utah Homes at Realty One Group Signature. On this channel, I teach you everything you need to know about buying and selling your very first home.